Yes, here we go. Contract management. Contract is a legal agreement between two or more parties that is enforceable by law for performing or not performing any work. So, contract is a legal agreement between two or more parties for performing or not performing any work that can be enforceable by law, or that a contract is a voluntary agreement between two or more parties that a court will enforce, and the rights and obligations created by contract apply only to the partners parties to the contract. Elements of contract: number one, agreement, offer and acceptance, that is give and take process. Number two, legal purpose. Three, uh, lawful consideration. Four, lawful object. Five, capacity to contract and consent to contract. Next one is certainty, possibility of performance, not expressly declared void, legal formalities like registration, writing, etc. That is elements, offer and acceptance, that is give and take, legal purpose, lawful uh, consideration, lawful object, capacity to contract and consent to contract, valid contract, not expressly declared void, and legal formalities like registration, writing. These are the elements of a contract. These are the requirements that an agreement to be a contract. Then types of contract: void contract, valid contract, voidable contract. Valid contract, voidable, and void contract. Three types of contract. Valid contract. Valid contract is that which is enforceable at law. It creates legal obligations between the parties. It enables one party to complete to compel another party to do something or not to do something. Legally enforceable, legally valid contract in which the contract creates legal obligations between the parties when one party and one party diverges from their agreement, then law enforce them the party to do the activity or to do the work they have agreemented. So valid contract is that is which is enforceable by law, creates legal obligation between the parties, and enables party to compel another party to do something or not to do something. Contract that is enforceable by law creates legal obligation, and one party can compel another party to do something or not to do something. This is valid contract. Contract enforceable by law that creates legal obligations between the parties, and when one in this case it enables one party to compel another party. This is valid contract. For example, Surendra proposed sell his one ropani land to Prakash for 1 million, and the parties are capable to do the contract by law. So this contract is valid. If Surendra fails to deliver the land, Prakash can him in the court for the delivery of land. On other hand, Prakash fails to make the payment, Surendra can sue him for the recovery of the payment. So there is give and take, offer and acceptance between the Surendra and Prakash, and this is legal purpose and lawful consideration. So this is a valid contract when any one of them fails to do that agreement, then one party can compel another party to complete the work, to do the work. So this is a valid contract. It is enforceable by law. It creates legal obligations between the parties, and it enables one party to compel another party to do that work. In case of valid contract, all the parties in the contract are legally responsible for the performance of a contract. All the parties are legally responsible. Both parties are legally responsible for the performing of the work that they have agreement to do the work. Voidable contract. Next is voidable contract. An agreement which is enforceable by law at the option of one or more of the parties that to but not at the option of the other or others is voidable contract. Voidable contract. It is enforceable law at option of one or more parties. Voidable contract can only be objected by the party who has been subject to fraud, coercion, misrepresentation, and undue influence. If the contract is revoked by a person rightfully, then he can also receive the compensation. The contract is voidable at the option of the party whose consent is caused, and contracts caused by fraud, undue influence, misrepresentation, or by coercion are voidable contract. Fraud, undue influence, misrepresentation, uh, consent is caused. These types of contract is voidable contract. Initially, the contract is valid, but after some times there is found some fraud, undue influence, misrepresentation, consent is caused, then the contract becomes void. This type of contract is voidable contract. Contract will be void if any of these fraud, undue influence, misrepresentation, consent caused are found. So this type of contract is known as voidable. Can be void at any time when this fraud, undue influence, misrepresentation, consent caused are found. So an agreement which is enforceable by law at the option of one parties but not at the option of other parties. Enforceable by law at the option of one party but not option of other party of the contract is voidable contract. A voidable contract can only be objected by the party who has been subject to the fraud, misrepresentation, undue influence, coercion, who has been to fraud. This contract, voidable contract, can only be objected can only be objected by the party. That is, this type of contract in this type of contract, the legal procedure is with the parties who has been subjected to fraud, coercion, misrepresentation, and influence. The person, the party who is affected by the fraud, coercion, the misrepresentation, undue influence, fraud, undue influence, misrepresentation, consent caused, and coercion. Mr. Sanjeev threatens to shoot Mr. Shah to purchase a car for 1 million. Mr. Shah agrees to contract was made by coercion and is voidable at the option of Mr. Shah. Mr. Sanjeev threatens. This is coercive action, coercion, fraud, undue influence, misrepresentation, coercion, fraud, undue influence, etc. So Mr. Sanjeev threatens to shoot Mr. Shah to purchase a car for 1 million. Mr. Shah agrees to contract. So this type was made by coercion and this is voidable at the option of Mr. Shah. Okay. Voidable contract. That is voidable and made the contract was made due to the influence of anything, coercion, influence, fraud, undue influence, misrepresentation, fraud is said. This type of contract. This is voidable contract. Next one is void contract. Contract not enforceable at law is void. Not enforceable by law. Originally, it is valid contract, but due to certain reason, it becomes void after its formation. A void contract cannot be enforced by either party. This is totally void, cannot enforceable by law to any party. Initially, it's void, valid. Any contract which is initially valid but totally unenforceable, not enforceable by law at last, is void. Valid contract enforceable by laws for the both parties. Voidable contract enforceable by law to the party who has been subjected to the fraud, coercion, misrepresentation. Who has been subjected to the fraud, misrepresentation, coercion, undue influence, and the void contract is totally unenforceable by law to the all parties. So, void contract is not enforceable by law, no legal rights, no obligation to any party. The the contract, the agreement against the public policy, legal purpose, against legal purpose, against the lawful considerations and lawful object needs void contract. No compensation can be paid to any party in this type of contract. No compensation. For example, Sachin and Isha contract to marry on next Sunday. Isha dies before the Sunday. The contract becomes void. An agreement in restraint of marriage and trade are common examples of void contract. Void contract, no legal purpose, lawful considerations, and lawful object. There is no offer and acceptance. Then this type of contract is void contract. The contract where offer and acceptance, legal purpose, lawful consideration, capacity to contract and consent to contract, lawful object, and foreign is like registrations, valid contract. Voidable contract, that is somehow undue influences fraud due to consent to contract, consent caused, that is consent to contract failed, capacity to contract is also failed. This type contract is voidable contract, valid, voidable, and void contract. This is the types of contract in terms of legality. Types of contract in terms of legality. This is contract elements, types of contract. The types of contract in terms of nature of work in construction work. Types of contract in terms of nature of work in construction work. Unit rate contract, that is also known as BOQ contract. Unit rate BOQ contract. Next one is design and build contract, lump sum contract, build, own and operate transfer, BOT contract and BOT contract, EPC contract, EPC contract, cost reimbursable contract, time and material rate contract, turnkey contract and management contract. So many types of contract, methods of contract and types of contract with deals and procurement management also. So generally the mostly used types of contract in our context is BOQ contract and design and build contract. BOQ, design and build. Another types are lump sum contract, EPC contract, recent contract, EPC contract, boot contract, BOT contract, cost reimbursable contract, time and material rate contract, etc. United BOQ, design and build, EPC, cost reimbursable contract are the main. And another one, all others are time and material rate contract, turnkey contract, build, own, and operate transfer contract. Build, own, and operate transfer contract. Build, own, and operate transfer contract. Lump sum contract. These are the types of contract. I only describes about the BOOT contract now. BOOT, build, own, and operate transfer contract. Build, own, and operate transfer contract is project delivery model that can be used for large projects developed through public-private partnership, and the term public-private partnership refers to a very broad range of partnerships in which the public and private sector collaborate for some mutual benefit under a BOOT contract. A private organization undertakes to complete a large project such as a complex infrastructure project which they are granted a concession to finance and built by a public sector partner, typically a government department. The public partner may provide limited funding or other benefits, such as tax, but the private organization accepts most of the risks. The private organization is then granted the right to own maintain and operate the project for a set period of time during which they can draw fees from users of assets. Once the time period has elapsed, the control of the project transfers to the public sector partner either freely or for a fee that is stipulated in the original contract, and it is common for the time period to be several decades in the case of big infrastructure projects that carry a lot of construction and operational risks. Private companies firm private persons ले build own and operate transfer फर्स्टमा कुनै डिकेड्स फर्स्टमा केही समयको लागि केही पिरियड्स अफ टाइम्सको लागि बिल्ड एन्ड ओन बिल्ड गर्ने बनाउने या चलाउने त्यो पिरियडभरि चलाउने आफा कमाउने बेनिफिट्स निकाल्ने त्यस पछाडि आफ्टर सर्टेन द कन्ट्र्याक्ट पिरियडमा भएअनुसार त्यो पिरियड पछाडि चाहिँ गभर्मेन्ट सेक्टर पब्लिक सेक्टरलाई ट्रान्सफर गर्ने टाइपको कन्ट्र्याक्टलाई चाहिँ बिओओटी कन्ट्र्याक्ट भनिन्छ। यहाँ भनेको छ प्रोजेक्ट डेलिभरी मोडेल used for large projects and public private partnerships is done. Private organization undertakes to complete project. Private organization undertake to complete project and built by a public sector partner also. And the public partner may provide limited funding, but the private accepts most of the risks. पब्लिक सेक्टरले पनि फन्डिङ प्रोभाइड गर्दो रहेछ कन्स्ट्रक्सनको लागि, तर लिमिटेड हुन्छ। तर मस्ट रिस्क टोटल रिस्क चाहिँ कसकोमा हुन्छ भन्दा प्राइभेट सेक्टरको रिस्क हुन्छ कन्स्ट्रक्सन अनि अपरेसन। एन्ड प्राइभेट सेक्टर्स undertakes complete large project granted and organization the prior is then granted the right to own maintain operate project for a set of period maintain build own maintain operate for the project period certain period of time during which they can draw the fee from users of the asset. They can collect fee, and after the time elapsed the control is transferred to the public sector either freely or a fee that is stipulated in the original contract. The time period may be several decades in the case of big infrastructure projects that carries a lot of construction operational risks. BOT build, own, operate and operate transfer contract. BOT contract type is a public-private partnership contract in which the private sector construct large complex projects own operates for certain period of time is specified in the contract, and after the time has elapsed the operation transferred to the project is transferred to the public sector freely or under a certain fee as stipulated in the original contract. This type of contract is BOT contract, and during the construction work the private organization accept most of all the risks, operational risks as well as construction operational risks, but also the public sector also provide funding, limited funding for the construction, such as from the public tax collection, etc. Public money. Public-private partnership method of contract is BOT contract. Private sector undertakes to complete large project, and there is public-private partnership accept most of the risk, fees, constructional and operational risk. This is BOOT contract. BOOT and BOT contract. Another one is uh, design and build. Design work and build work is done by a single parties. So the design is will be design and build. डिजाइनमा पनि कम्पिटिसन हुन्छ बिडर्स बिचमा कन्ट्र्याक्टमा नि हुन्छ डिजाइन एन्ड बिल्ड टाइप